days. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, we are still doing some debriefing on Carnival and trying to figure out a way forward as well. So, joining us to give us her opinions, her views, her ideas is Dr. Denise Tsoifatt-Angus, former presiding officer, and also she was a former secretary of the Division of Culture and Community Development. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, and it's so good to be here. I'm at the tail end of a flu, so please, my voice. But good morning to everyone.
Certainly. Now, let me just get a cursory glance of how you felt the carnival went for 2023.
Okay. Honest?
Honest opinion.
Brutally honest. It was a colossal failure. And you have to ask yourself, was it intentional or was it gross incompetence? And that's where I will start with it, because there's no other place to stand for me. Having been there as the Secretary of Community Development, having been there as the chair of the Tobago Festival Commission, in my view, it was a colossal failure.
All right. Now, I mean, like I said, you said it's a colossal failure. Is it that every part of it failed? Or was there something that did go well?
The one place I did not attend the Juves in
Scarborough?
in Crown Point nor Roxboro.
Okay.
I've had reports that they were not as much as before, but again, is it just about the numbers? So I can't comment on those. The Tuesday in Calder Hall seemed to have a lot of participation.
Yes.
But when we look at the carnival, you're talking about our pans, our calypsos, our mass. Okay? And let me congratulate the pans. They did extremely well. And it is, through their continual practice and their opportunity to always be part of the national arena of competition, that they've been able to maintain their standards and they're holding their own at the national level. And so I am excited about that. Additionally, and those types of successes don't come overnight.
No, they don't.
Those
because we know, we've seen
training and and giving them the support in terms of what they needed. I remember when we created the program with Mary Toby, I was back then, and we said, how can we create a program to create arrangers in Tobago? And I am so proud to see our young people from Tobago, that we don't have arrangers coming from Trinidad, that the Tobago arrangers are really blossoming well and being able to win. Hats off to Cats and Jammers, and all the others who have made it into the top 10. What I liked in Scarborough was that they introduced having the pan sides be a part of the Juve. And that is something that we have always said, define Scarborough. And so it was a great experience being there with the local bands and jumping with them to be part of that whole Juve experience. So you have a choice. You could either go and do the music trucks elsewhere, or you could come to Scarborough and do the pan sides. And it gave the pan side an opportunity and a space within that whole Juve experience. So we're now looking at the calypsos. And in Tobago, and it's not just in Tobago, everywhere else, you have your smaller pan tents, and that is where you give the opportunity of your grassroots and your community to grow their wings and their muscles inside of being, in the Calypso arena. And I don't think, they really got much support. I think people don't understand the need to truly, give their contributions to those community tents as much as possible, as fledgling as you think they may be.
Do you think that the culture is changing when it comes to, going to the Calypso tents? Because back in the day, it was a huge deal, but it seems as though there's a shift in the culture, and there may be less interest in it. Is this something that you're noticing?
Well, if you're not making it exciting and trending, of course nobody's going to be interested. And we get into that with the Tuesday Carnival, you know. But that is an area where you have to put sufficient emphasis and not just a few pennies, you know. Look at the products and see where you can develop the product and give the opportunity of the communities to really get involved. Then you have the Calder Hall experience on a Tuesday morning. And like I said, that did extremely well. That's one of my favorites. I've gone to it from since the first year they started, the pioneers. And I'm really excited that they have continued. And if it's one that really does not get the support, it's them. But they have pulled together as a community and they're making sure that it comes off. Some people felt that it wasn't as spectacular. And that's because they didn't get as much support for small groups to bring out their bands in a jersey or old mass. But it was good to see some of those who still continued to be part of that old mass experience on Tuesday morning. Now, I did not attend Monday night. But we get to Tuesday. And I saw some people who said that they weren't bringing up Monday night because the information was not there. It was not marketed. And people who would normally come out on a Monday night, they just didn't know about it and they didn't bring out a band until it was too late. They were calling them the week before to ask them if you're bringing out a band. That does not happen. To bring out a band on a Monday night, you would have had to, have timing to know what jerseys you're coming in and be able to purchase all of that. So I understand that it was not as well subscribed as we would expect.
Now, when you look at just the overall Carnival experience, and I'm talking on a national scale here, there seemed to be less participation, less buy-in. There were many challenges, and Tobago, like some of the challenges went across both islands, and they experienced some of the same things. But how much? So I put that there because I want to know how much of the failure of the Carnival, as you say, had to do with the THA's lack of THA's input, or just a wider problem throughout the country?
Okay, I can't speak for the country. We could speak for Tobago. And in the country, on an overall scale, you would think that there were persons who were afraid of the resurgence of COVID and their being exposed to it. Having said that, we get beyond that. There's, Tobago, the administration has to decide. Is it that you focusing all your energies on October Carnival? Is October Carnival going to be a real carnival in our definition of it, where you will not just have fetting and vets, but you have competitions, you have a display of the art form, you have included all of them in a very strategic manner. And if so, then what do you do with February? Because February is a national carnival. They can't just say, we're not having carnival. Somebody could sue you because it is a national, it is part of the parliamentary, decisions coming out of there. So you can't just say it's not. But the question is, how do you define it? Because we had a lot of tourists there on the side of the road, just waiting. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon when we saw one band pass. 4:30. And therefore, you know,
But then how much of that is to blame on the THA? I mean, then what responsibility does the band leaders have? Because this is a problem that we've noticed over the years. Bands traditionally come out late on a Tuesday.
not that late.
Well,
okay?
maybe not that late, but they do.
Again, it has to be a lot of conversations. You have to understand. And we also did not just have bands coming out late. You also had a large drop off of the number of bands,
definitely,
who were coming out. And if you understand that this is our first carnival we're coming back into, we have just had a significant impact on the economy due to COVID. Prior to COVID, bands would have a little startup stipend, to get going, to start making, because being a band leader is not a cheap thing,
No, it's not.
It's not cheap. And you have to take your hats off to these band leaders because it is their passion and their love that you see coming out. It is not something cheap to do. And that is why many of them, they almost gamble, put their heart into it. And then they see whether they could win a prize to recoup on all that they have done. But clearly, they were not sending a clear message of the direction to band leaders. So you had, key persons who would bring out amazing ras. I think his name is Marcus Devines. I don't think he really came out.
I think he did. He did assist a few bands. He did do some costume designing. Like he did not come out front, but he helped with the costume design of a couple of the bands.
Right. And then you have, I think, the Davidson. I didn't see a band coming out for them.
I don't think I saw that either.
Even in terms of No Behavior Crew. Like I said, a lot of key band leaders just threw up their hands and did not take part. And that's what I'm saying. There has to be conversations continually and an understanding of what band leaders go through, what it takes to bring out a band, and therefore take into consideration the current climate, the current economy, post-COVID, and post-October, and we should if we didn't want this to fail, we should have given a more solid stipend. We probably should have kept the price structures where they were, because this was the opportunity. There was no competition back in October. So this really was what the band leaders were waiting on.
Right.
And therefore being able to put all of those things in place as an invitation, as an inspiration for them to truly get back into the cut and thrust of the carnival season.
Now, we spent a lot of time in Roxboro as well for the carnival season. Now, at the start of the planning phases, there was an attempt to not have as much in Roxboro, and then the community spoke, and then so the THA bended to their wishes and hosted some events in Roxboro. However, the events did not do well. Now, how could that situation have been handled differently so that Roxboro saw better participation, spectatorship, all of that?
Communication from up front.
Okay,
you don't wait until there's a revolt from the people. Give the people power early. This was a whole year. We're not talking about Carnival 2022, we're talking about Carnival 2023. There was a whole year of planning that could have taken place, of clear direction as to where this is headed. It almost became like, oh shucks, we just finished October, we are February. There should have been a clear indication of what we're having in October and what is happening in February. And the band leaders have a clear vision and would have contributed to that vision in the rollout of February.
Now,
after October, we started giving stipends, as early as I think August and September.
Okay.
So that they can start making their quality costumes to get into February.
Now, having seen October, having seen February, what do you think would be a good suggestion going forward as to, what should we do in February and what should we do in October? How should we distinguish both of them?
I think it's important, again, to sit down with your band leaders and have a full discussion over it. Yeah? You cannot take away the opportunity to participate in the national events for
Certainly
Calypso and Pan. But certainly you could decide to have a commitment to a local display in October and a competition for your band leaders, and in February you have a showcase. Because you have to ask yourself, why would you continue? Apart from it being a parliamentary decision that this is a national holiday for Carnival, you ask yourself, what are the opportunities there inside of it? And the opportunities are that you can have a showcase. So instead of paying for a competition, you pay band leaders to come out early with their display, and you then work towards bringing in a cruise ship, and you invite the cruise ship to join in part of the masquerade on those days in Scarborough, especially the Tuesday. So it really becomes, again, tourism and culture. I think that is why they would have moved them in together. So thinking, what are the opportunities for tourism, given that, we still have these two national holidays, and it could be something enticing. Like I said, tourists were just lining up the streets waiting. And that's one thing. Let me tell you, plenty vendors lost.
Yes, certainly. Definitely in Roxboro and in Scarborough.
Vendors lost. And if you understand economic, churning and recycling of why we have festivals, you would have made sure that you had the decision to have something in Roxborough such that everyone was clear, this is what we're having. You assist them in marketing. And that's the other thing. Many people didn't know we were having Carnival in Tobago because the marketing was not there for this Carnival. And so people were not clear. And when they heard last minute, they rustled up something and went out, and the numbers were not there. And also in Scarborough. So if you have a committed performance show, then, and for your tourists who are there, and you, of course, you can't forget your mud people who normally come into town, the mud mass, as part of an experience. You create an experience for tourists and the opportunity for vendors to now have increased numbers of persons at their disposal that they could vend to.
Now, should we have had 3 juvies this year, or should that have been shelved and perhaps centralized a juvie? Because that was one of the concerns coming out of Carnival that you're hearing about in the public domain, that maybe we should not have had 3.
This conversation has been ongoing for years.
Yes, it does.
And I keep saying, how do you not have a juvie in Roxborough for Roxborough people? That's their town. Let them put on their juvie. That's their business. Crown Point want to have a juvie? Leave them. Yeah? Scarborough is the next town. But you assist them in creating a product that appeals to different sectors. So in Scarborough, the music trucks were not there. You had the pan sides. So those who want to chip to pan, reminding you of the old days, chip into pan, Scarborough is the place to be. Those who want to wine and jam behind a music truck, go Crown Point or Roxboro. And you just, I don't think we need to fight it. I think we need to just put the resources in. And also to be able to bring back the old mass critically into Scarborough as the showcase for old mass. That is a dying art form, and we absolutely need to protect our art forms, the originality of Carnival. That whole old mass experience is part of what we have as Carnival. And we don't want a generation goes by and all people know for Carnival is a fete. That really would be a travesty. And so we have to be intentional about protecting those art forms to ensure that we could have something amazing. I also want to congratulate the Charlottesville group for their portrayal of the paper dolls.
Yes, they did pretty well.
And
I was quite impressed.
Yes. You saw real expression of what a Tobago Carnival is, the traditional, cultural experience. It's really something I truly enjoyed. One of those I truly enjoyed. And then too, the children with the jab.
Yes.
That also was an amazing display. So there were a couple of highlights, and I think, if we were honest with ourselves and you really want to have the development and you understand why we are doing it, you will have meetings with your stakeholders. And then one thing that was noticeably absent that people continue to comment on is that where were the executives? I don't know if you had the opportunity to interview any of them where in any of the activities, but they were certainly not seen. Their presence was not felt. And I mean, that too is really not acceptable.
All right, Monica, thank you so much, Dr. Angus, for being on with us and for sharing your perspectives. And there's a lot of little nuggets there that perhaps those decision makers can take on board. All right, so viewers, please don't go anywhere because we've got a lot more coming up for you in the program.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denise. Let's go.
Come on. Be watching Let's Talk Tobago on Tobago Updates, Mondays to Fridays, 6:30 a.m.
You're watching Let's Talk Tobago.